Something powerful happens when a child of God seeks to know more about Him and His beloved Son. Nowhere are those truths taught more clearly and powerfully than in the Book of Mormon.
God always provides safety for the soul, and with the Book of Mormon, He has again done that in our time. Remember this declaration by Jesus Himself: "Whoso treasureth up my word shall not be deceived. And in the last days, neither your heart nor your faith will fail you."
Chapter 29. Mosiah proposes that judges be chosen in place of a king. Unrighteous kings lead their people into sin. Alma the Younger is chosen chief judge by the voice of the people. He is also the high priest over the church. Alma the Elder and Mosiah die about 92 to 91 BC. So this is them setting up their government. And this whole chapter is just 1 year, but there's some really important things about the way government should run that we're going to hear right now. Now, when Mosiah had done this, he sent out throughout all the land among all the people, desiring to know their will concerning who should be their king. And it came to pass that the voice of the people came, saying, "We are desirous that Aaron thy son should be our king and our ruler." Now Aaron had gone up to the land of Nephi. Therefore the king could not confer the kingdom upon him, neither would Aaron take up upon him the kingdom. Neither were any of the sons of Mosiah willing to take upon them the kingdom. I just love that so much, that they have completely turned their lives over to the Lord. So much so that they are not even accepting their chance to be a king. They are completely walking away from their chance to rule, their chance to be a king, so that they can go and preach the gospel. And not to just anybody, so that they can go and preach the gospel to the most bloodthirsty, scariest people that they knew, the Lamanites that wanted to kill him. For 500 years, they've been wanting to kill him. Therefore King Mosiah sent again among the people, yea, even a written word sent he among the people. And these were the words that were written, saying, "Behold, O ye my people, or my brethren, for I esteem you as such, I desire that ye should consider the cause which ye are called to consider, for ye are desirous to have a king. Now I declare unto you that he to whom the kingdom doth rightly belong has declined, and will not take upon him the kingdom. And now if there should be another appointed in his stead, behold, I fear that there should arise contentions among you. And who knoweth but what my son, to whom the kingdom doth belong, should turn to be angry and draw away a part of this people after him, which would cause wars and contentions among you, which would be the cause of shedding much blood and perverting the way of the Lord, yea, and destroy the souls of many people. Now I say unto you, let us be wise and consider these things. For we have no right to destroy my son, neither should we have any right to destroy another if he should be appointed in his stead." So this is that, quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Mosiah understands that. There would be no checks and no balances to have a king. And he says, I'm not willing to chance my son's life being destroyed by becoming the king. And Mosiah knows firsthand he's been the king. And so I am sure he knows how hard Satan has tried to tempt him to be an evil dictator, tyrannical king, because that is all Satan wants. Over and over, every generation, he wants to take away our freedoms and take away our agency. That was the one thing that he was so angry about in the war in heaven. He didn't want us to have agency. And Heavenly Father and Jesus did. And that was one of the biggest things. And so he right here, Mosiah is saying, I'm not willing to allow one of my sons to chance them becoming an evil ruler that would remove your freedoms. I just don't think it's wise. So he's telling this to all of his people. His people first wanted his son Aaron, and Mosiah said, my son Aaron doesn't want to be a king, and I don't think it'd be a good idea anyway. And if my son should turn again to his pride and vain things, he would recall the things which he had said and claim his right to the kingdom, which would cause him and also this people to commit much sin. So Mosiah is not a fool. He knows that none of us are beyond the reach of temptation, that Satan will try to get us all the time. And he says, my son, what if he turned back to the ways that he was living and turned back? His life would be ruined. A lot of your lives would be ruined because he would cause you to commit much sin. So Mosiah is trying to talk them into understanding that this monarchy, this king system of government is not wise. It's not in their best interest to have a king because they are always subject to the king's level of righteousness. And now let us be wise and look forward to these things and do that which will make for the peace of this people. Therefore, I will be your king the remainder of my days. Nevertheless, let us appoint judges to judge this people according to our law. And we will newly arrange the affairs of this people, for we will appoint wise men to be judges that will judge this people according to the commandments of God. So it's always to God's law. And that's where our country has gone wrong, is because we have done so much to forget God. Our country, this United States of America, was founded upon the teachings of men who loved God and listened to God. Our founding fathers were God-fearing, faithful men. They were not perfect. I will never say they were perfect because only Jesus Christ has been perfect. But I will say that the Lord is able to use flawed people to do his work because that's all he's had to work with. Elder Holland says that must be terribly frustrating for the Lord, but he deals with it and we need to deal with it too. I love how he puts things. So Mosiah is trying to set up this much wiser, much better form of government than a monarchy. Now it is better that a man should be judged of God than of man, for the judgments of God are always just, but the judgments of man are not always just. Therefore, if it were possible that you could have just men to be your kings, who would establish the laws of God and judge his people according to his commandments, yea, if you could have men for your kings who would do even as my father Benjamin did for this people, I say unto you, if this could always be the case, then it would be expedient that you should always have kings to rule over you. And even I myself have labored with all the power and faculties which I have possessed, to teach you the commandments of God, and to establish peace throughout the land, that there should be no more wars, nor contentions, no stealing, nor plundering, nor murdering, nor any manner of iniquity. And whosoever has committed iniquity, him have I punished according to the crime which he has committed, according to the law which has been given to us by our fathers. Now I say unto you, that because all men are not just, it is not expedient that ye should have a king or kings to rule over you. For behold, how much iniquity doth one wicked king cause to be committed, yea, and what great destruction. So he knows firsthand, because he knows Mosiah is working with Alma, and he knows Alma's story, and he's seen wicked kings, and he also knows the power of a righteous king. But he's a realist, and he's saying, you can't always have these just, honest, good men be your kings. It just doesn't work that way. And so it's far too risky to have this form of government where we have a king and everybody is subject to that king with no checks, no balances, no other form of power that can even challenge the power of the king. Mosiah is trying to say this is not wise and it's not going to work going forward. Yea, remember King Noah, his wickedness and his abominations, and also the wickedness and abominations of his people? Behold, what great destruction did come upon them, and also because of their iniquities they were brought into bondage. And were it not for the interposition of their all-wise Creator, and this because of their sincere repentance, they must unavoidably remain in bondage until now. But behold, he did deliver them because they did humble themselves before him. And because they cried mightily unto him, he did deliver them out of bondage. And thus doth the Lord work with his power in all cases among the children of men, extending the arm of mercy towards them that put their trust in him. Extending the arm of mercy towards them that put their trust in him. And behold, now I say unto you, ye cannot dethrone an iniquitous king, save it be through much contention and the shedding of much blood. For behold, he has his friends in iniquity, and he keepeth his guards about him, and he teareth up the laws of those who have reigned in righteousness before him, and he trampleth under his feet the commandments of God. So Mosiah is trying to say, if a king is wicked, he's not going to let people tell him that he needs to repent. He's not going to be humble. He's not going to be righteous. He's going to have his friends surrounding him that are basically his little echo chamber that are validating and supporting and probably advocating for everything that he's doing. Just like King Noah with Abinadi. Remember what the priests were saying to King Noah? King Noah even had a moment where he thought, maybe I shouldn't kill Abinadi. But it wasn't because he thought he liked him and wanted to help him. It was because he was scared because Abinadi said that you're going to die the same way that you're going to kill me. And so that was the moment that King Noah was like, I don't know if we should do it. And who talked him back into it? His friends, his wicked priests that were around him. So that's what Mosiah is saying right here, is that whoever these iniquitous kings are, they're going to have their friends surrounding him. They're going to have people in their lives that are not going to challenge them, that are not going to tell them that they're committing sin and abominations and whoredoms and all these terrible things that wicked kings do. They're not going to have people like that around them. They won't allow it. So the only way, he says, to get rid of an iniquitous king is through the shedding of much blood. So he knows, he just is trying to teach his people, I know this is all you've known as far as a form of government, but this is not going to be the best option going forward. And he enacteth laws and sendeth them forth among his people, yea, laws after the manner of his own wickedness. And whosoever doth not obey his laws, he caused to be destroyed. And whosoever doth rebel against him, he will send his armies against them to war. And if he can, he will destroy them. And thus an unrighteous king doth pervert the ways of all righteousness. So he's got a lot of case studies to reference about what these wicked kings do. He's basically doing a play-by-play of how King Noah ruled and all these sins and abominations that King Noah committed. And now behold, I say unto you, it is not expedient that such abomination should come upon you. Therefore choose you by the voice of this people, judges, that ye may be judged according to the laws which have been given you by our fathers, which are correct, and which were given them by the hand of the Lord. So I love that he says, choose by the voice of the people. That's voting. So he's saying everybody gets to have a voice, everybody gets to have an opinion, and they all get to pick who they want their leaders to be. Now, it is not common that the voice of the people desireth anything contrary to that which is right. But it is common for the lesser part of the people to desire that which is not right. Therefore, this shall ye observe and make it your law, to do your business by the voice of the people. So Mosiah had an incredible wisdom and understanding about the role of government and how government should function. And he says that most of the time, most people want good things to happen. Most people want righteousness to happen. And if we're governing by the voice of the people, then we're going to have good things enacted and good people voted in, good policies voted in. But there's going to be a big disclaimer here. And if the time comes that the voice of the people doth choose iniquity, then is the time that the judgments of God will come upon you. Yea, then is the time he will visit you with great destruction, even as he hath hitherto visited this land. So that's the caveat. That's the big, hold on. If the time comes when the people choose wickedness, then the judgments of God will come. I know that is where we are at today in our country and in our world. We have allowed ourselves to become such a godless people, full of iniquity and abomination, and they call evil good and good evil. And this is everywhere. Everywhere. I believe that Mosiah is telling us here that we all have a responsibility to understand what is happening politically and to be informed about what's happening. And also stand up and use your voice for good. Do what you need to do. Get involved. We all have different levels of being able to get involved. And I really feel like that's important, because it's important what the voice of the people says, especially if your voice is being silenced or censored or taking away your freedom of speech. Those are so important, things that you push through and you still stand up and be bold and use your voice to support and say the things that the Lord wants you to say. And now, if ye have judges, and they do not judge you according to the law which has been given, ye can cause that they may be judged of a higher judge. So if you have a judge that's basically like a corrupt judge who is not judging you according to the law, then you can go to a higher judge. If your higher judges do not judge righteous judgments, ye shall cause that a small number of your lower judges should be gathered together, and they shall judge your higher judges according to the voice of the people. So this is checks and balances. This is what I was referencing earlier. There is a way here that every office of government is basically checked. Like, hold on, you've taken it too far. That's not your jurisdiction. You're trying to take too much power. You're trying to remove too many of our rights or our liberties, our freedoms. We need to have, in a proper, functioning, righteous government, we have adequate checks and balances that do what they are designed to do. And that is to limit power from one person or one branch of government or one area of government. And I command you to do these things in the fear of the Lord. And I command you to do these things, that ye have no king, that if these people commit sins and iniquities, they shall be answered upon their own heads. For behold, I say unto you, the sins of many people have been caused by the iniquities of their kings. Therefore their iniquities are answered upon the heads of their kings. And now I desire that this inequality should be no more in this land, especially among this my people. But I desire that this land be a land of liberty, and every man may enjoy his rights and privileges alike, so long as the Lord sees fit that we may live and inherit the land, yea, even as long as any of our posterity remains upon the face of the land. And many more things did King Mosiah write unto them, unfolding unto them all the trials and troubles of a righteous king, yea, all the travails of soul for their people, and also all the murmurings of the people to their king, and he explained it all unto them. And he told them that these things ought not to be, but that the burden should come upon all the people, that every man might bear his part. So that's what I'm saying. We all need to get involved, and we all need to know what's going on. And he also unfolded unto them all the disadvantages they labored under by having an unrighteous king to rule over them. Yea, all of his iniquities and abominations, and all the wars and contentions and bloodshed, and the stealing and the plundering and the committing of whoredoms, and all manner of iniquities which cannot be enumerated, telling them that these things ought not to be, that they were expressly repugnant to the commandments of God. And now it came to pass, after King Mosiah had sent these things forth among the people, they were convinced of the truth of his words. I love this, because even though King Mosiah is the king right now, and he has every right to go and put on the people his will, his desire, whatever he wants to have happen, and he still asks their opinion. He writes this whole thing that I've been reading was a letter that he had written to all of his people to try to convince them, you know what, guys, I know having a king is what's comfortable to us. That's all you've known. You had King Benjamin, my dad, who was absolutely a humble and incredible man. And now I'm your king, and I'm trying my best to be righteous. But this will not always be the case. So he's trying to show them and try to convince them, and also talk to them. At the beginning, he even says to his people that he says, well, my friends, because you guys are my friends, my brothers, he calls them. Therefore, they relinquished their desires for a king. So they believed King Mosiah's letter. They thought, you know what, we get it. They totally were on board with what he said. And they became exceedingly anxious that every man should have an equal chance throughout all the land. Yea, and every man expressed a willingness to answer for his own sins. So we have personal accountability again, and we also have, you get to have a voice. You get to have a vote in what happens in your government. Therefore, it came to pass that They assembled themselves together in bodies throughout the land to cast in their voices. Cast, that's what we call it, casting a vote. This is why our election system is so sacred, because this is literally our voice. And this was set up by the Lord through Mosiah right here. How important it is that we have the voice of the people standing up and speaking truth and speaking out and getting involved and informed. So they cast in their voices concerning who should be their judges, to judge them according to the law which had been given them. And they were exceedingly rejoiced because of the liberty which had been granted unto them. So they're so grateful to have these rights that they get to have a voice. And they did wax strong in love towards Mosiah. Yea, they did esteem him more than any other man, for they did not look upon him as a tyrant who was seeking for gain, yea, for that lucre which doth corrupt his soul. For that lucre which doth corrupt the soul. For he had not exacted riches of them, neither had he delighted in the shedding of blood, but he had established peace in the land, and he had granted unto his people that they should be delivered from all manner of bondage. Therefore they did esteem him, yea, exceedingly beyond measure. And it came to pass that they did appoint judges to rule over them, or to judge them according to the law, and thus they did throughout all the land. And it came to pass that Alma was appointed to be the first chief judge, he also being the high priest, his father having conferred the office upon him, and having given him the charge concerning all the affairs of the church. And now it came to pass that Alma did walk in the ways of the Lord, and he did keep his commandments, and he did judge righteous judgments, and there was continual peace through the land. And thus commenced the reign of the judges throughout all the land of Zarahemla, among all the people who were called the Nephites. And Alma was the first and chief judge. And now it came to pass that his father died, being 82 years old, having lived to fulfill the commandments of God. So Alma the elder has now passed away. But Alma the younger is set up and has been an incredible disciple of the Lord. He's the first chief judge, and he's also a high priest at this point. It's so sad to have his die. It's so sad to think about his dad dying, but it also gives us so much hope because of who Alma the younger has become. And it came to pass that Mosiah died also in the 33rd year of his reign, being 63 years old. These ages sound so young because we had people living to be like 800 or 900 years old in the early Old Testament times. Making in the whole 509 years from the time that Lehi left Jerusalem. So how many years has it been? 509 since they left Jerusalem. And thus ended the reign of the kings over the people of Nephi, and thus ended the days of Alma, who was the founder of their church. And that is the end of the book of Mosiah. So now we're going to get into the book of Alma. Here we go.